Test, test. All right, Joe is on his way very shortly. We'll get going in just a moment. Just to share a little tidbit here. There's a person in the front row that some of you might recognize in that photo there. 1917. It's a gentleman second from the right. Look familiar to anybody? Gentleman second to the right. He was a teacher at De Pere High School, and he also was a coach at De Pere High School. And he also became involved with the Green Bay Packers. Yes, thank you. Dad Brazier. So we're going to do a little bit on him if Joe ever gets up on the stage. We'll do a little bit on some Brazier information here. Their family was gracious enough to share a whole collection of photos with us, of which we called out a few of them to share. So we'd like to welcome everybody to the April 24th De Pere Historical Society photo show. Glad to have you all here. Just a couple of brief announcements here. Jim Vandenhoven and Larry Willems at the end of the program will be out manning a table, handing out and taking membership information for any of those of you who would be interested in joining us. And of course, we'd love to have you all on board. You can either sign up with us tonight or take the little card and send it in. Membership is really critical to our whole operation. Between individuals and businesses, we're around 260 total members right now. So, you got it figured out, Joe? I shouldn't tell you. There you go. You're on.
Hello.
There you go. Good. So, as per usual, it was a challenge for us to get up and running here. The Historical Society got a new laptop for us. We were hoping and praying that it would work. It worked beautifully until we tried to connect it to this so you could see it. And I thought it would be awful difficult for everybody to gather around Joe's screen. So thank goodness we did bring his in addition. And we got ourselves up and running. Are you about ready, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, we're just 3 minutes late. That's all right, though. So, we'll click right on there. There we go. All right, so a little bit on Dad Brazier. He was from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And in 1917, he would have been probably a sophomore in high school at this point in time. And he already had, a lot of you might be familiar, some of you aren't, but I'll try to give you a little background. But he had a name that he went by in high school of Dad. He was Dad Brazier in high school. And so I think a lot of people thought Dad Brazier was probably the fatherly figure, the teacher and coach and stuff like that. Little story about that I happened to do research on quite a few years ago. I found something in an Oshkosh newspaper. What it came from was that he and a close friend, when they were 9, 10, 11 years old, followed a comic strip. And they took on the two characters' names. The two characters in the comic strips were Did and Dad. So his friend was Did, and Dad Brazier took on the Dad name. His real first name was Gerald Brazier, graduated from Oshkosh High School in 1919, and I just thought I'd share a few pictures with you. If you click ahead to the next one, it's obviously the football team. And by the way, his senior year, oh gosh, I hope this doesn't happen. Go backward. Okay. His senior year in high school, in all likelihood, they probably played Green Bay East High School, so he probably competed against Curly Lambeau. This is a 1918 basketball team picture. He would have been the captain, and way up above they have some scores there. They played St. Norbert College to a 0-0 game. Back in the early days, St. Norbert did play a lot of high school teams back then, and then also the other game that's up there, they played Green Bay East High School, where Curly Lambeau ended up going in 1919. But he played Green Bay East High School, and they beat them 12-6 in basketball. That's not football. Move ahead. Very good. And you can see here, Brazier is on the bottom right, and it indicates up above that Brazier was a high jumper, Most people wouldn't have guessed that. Not a real tall guy. Did the 100-yard dash, 200-yard dash, and also the relays. He did end up competing at the state meet and placed second in the 100-yard dash. It's just another shot. This is a 18-19 year. Would have been his senior year in high school. He's on the bottom left. I imagine you're admiring those, scroll back out, admiring those socks that they have on. This before Pete Maravich got a hold of them. And started to trim down a little bit. So this is a high school team. And next one. The basketball shoes are clever too. And this is his senior year of track, right there in the middle. The middle position would connotate that he was the captain of the team. And here he is. He went on to Oshkosh Normal School. The Oshkosh Normal School was a 2-year teacher program. So this would be his senior year, 1922. And as you can see in the picture there, he was the captain, Gerald Brazier. This was the basketball schedule. Star basketball player. Scroll ahead here. And there he is on the Oshkosh Normal School, 1922. Again, center position. He was the team captain back then. They actually played for the conference championship that particular year. And if you scroll ahead to the next picture, this was a telegram that was sent to Gerald Brazier, captain of the Oshkosh Normal basketball team, Hotel Stoddard, when they were staying in La Crosse, Wisconsin, to play the La Crosse Normal School. Notwithstanding the distance between us, the student body of your school wants you to know that is back of you to a man in tonight's contest. The world knows that one inferior team took the football championship. Of course, that would be La Crosse, won the championship. Oshkosh knows that it cannot be done again in basketball. The championship will be here Friday night if the old combination is on. Daddy and Harv, Daddy being Dad, we want to see you tear. Wilson, lay heavy on that big bird. Joey and Bob, we want to hear you smack them in there. Ted and Mac and Hank, we want the old cooperation. That meant Hancock, get the old command and make them drive. Remember, gang, that every last one of us is squeezing the old late lucky stone for you. We know that you will bring home the bacon if you go into this game with the old drive that every Normalite knows you have. We want that old crown here, and you've got to get it. Go in with the old pepper, and you won't disappoint the game. It's from the student body at the Oshkosh Normal School. Unfortunately, I researched, and I'm not able to find if they won the game. Sorry about that. Go ahead. Oh, back up here. These are a little out of order. Shoot, okay, well, we'll go with it. We're a little out of order here. Hang on one second. Let me just see if I can. I had these all in a nice little order here. Can you go back out real quick to the begin? I don't know how you do that. Yeah, they should be right in order. Is that Brazier? Yeah, go where you had, no, not yours, mine. No. Oh, jeez. Oh. Well, unfortunately, this was the first picture that I had that was going to be the first football team that he had. Shoot. Darn it. Darn it. And that's what it's coming up to. Oh, well. Well, he had a long and illustrious career at De Pere High School. Won a state championship in 1934. Took the first team to state in 1928. Also took a team in 1932. Won the state consolation championship in 1941. Coached there for 35 years altogether, retiring in 1955. And as a result of his contributions to the city of De Pere, in addition to youth programs that he started, had a park named after him called Brazier Park. And this is just in 1961, I believe, when they announced that this was going to be named after him. And if you scroll ahead, here was they had a wonderful little evening. Former Redbird coach Dad Brazier was honored at a park dedication and dinner party on Sunday. Cliff Fagan, Executive Secretary of the National Federation of High School Athletic Associations. Harold Schumerth is the second gentleman. He was a gentleman that played football and basketball for Brazier back in the late 20s and very early 1930s. And then someone that was from the WIAA. And this was the big announcement they had in the paper. Testimonial dinner at the Swan Club. Brazier dedication at 4 o'clock. Just a nice little tribute to Dad Brazier. And then a special proclamation from the city also. And the different advertisers. When he got out of the teaching, he did become equipment manager of the Green Bay Packers. And what a lot of people don't realize is that he was also equipment manager with the Seattle Pilots. He did the spring training. The Seattle Pilots were the team that eventually came to Milwaukee, and it's the team we now know as the Milwaukee Brewers. But Brazier is on the far left in the photo right over there. And there he is as the equipment man for the Seattle Pilots. As a kid, he would bring us Seattle Pilot baseballs and caps and all sorts of stuff, which we then proceeded to use and destroy. I wish we had those. And there's Dad Brazier on the sideline. Packer game as the equipment manager in one of his later years. And a lot of people don't realize, but he actually lived at the Union Hotel for 40 years. He moved in 1941. He had an apartment fire at his apartment house on Broadway in De Pere, 2 blocks north of the Union Hotel, and temporarily moved into the Union Hotel in room number 17, and temporarily stayed for 40 years until he passed away in 1981. That's a picture of him coming down for breakfast.
He liked toast.
Yeah, he liked toast. In fact, funny you mention that, he actually liked burnt toast. I don't know what that was all about. And there's Dad with his championship rings that he got as the equipment manager for the Green Bay Packers, his world championship rings. And that completes that one, back to the beginning of that. Too bad I had some really nice pictures. He started the football program at De Pere in 1922. That was the first year the high school fielded a football team. Had about 15 guys out there, including my great uncle Felix Maternuski was on the team. And then by about 1930, he had 35 boys involved in football at that point. Moving ahead, hopefully most of these show up. De Pere's baseball history goes back a long ways. In fact, it was kind of lean for a lot of years. In 1874, the De Pere team won the county championship. This photo is from 1914, and they were still parading these guys out. So it was kind of a lean bit of baseball. You scroll ahead to the next one, they got the boys out of the car. So this would be 16, 30 years after they played at least. But every year these guys, the Tom Collins Club, baseball club, would come out and honor their county championship. Just a few shots of some very early De Pere baseball teams from back in the day. This particular one's about 1890. This is the Aristos. I think that was a flour company, if I'm not mistaken. This is from 1919. Yeah, you should see some of the names. Go back to that one real quick, because they did have a few names on there. They got Wally Campbell, Bill Desmond, I know we had Desmonds, George Eiler, Dick Murphy, Pete Martin, Peters, Ted Zimders was the manager, George Martin. Johnny Walsh was the mascot, the young boy on the right. And again, another shot of a early De Pere baseball club. And then this one, you have some names on the bottom. Just pull it up once just to, oh, there you go. Some of the names. Sherlock, DeNoble, Adrianson, Doherty, Lambert, Gofford, Harry Carter, Walter Kiley, and Jack Taylor. The De Pere Giants. This is 1910. Another early shot. This one's just the early 1900s is all it was labeled as. Not sure. Baseball games were played at Zeggers Park. Zeggers Park was approximately the location of where Austin's is right now, right in that area. But it was what became a bar called the Old Dutch back in the day. But they had a big ballpark there, and that's where a lot of the games were played. And also, games were played over at the St. Norbert College campus. This particular game is played there. That White House in the background there, pretty much the location of Van Dyke Gym. And this is a shot, now we're up into the 1930s. This is just a bunch of neighborhood boys got together. I do believe somewhere in our collection all these boys have been identified, if I'm not mistaken. I think Clarence Zeggers is one of the boys in there. Pardon? Can you enlarge that, Joe?
I think on the top, yep, top left, that's Joe Mewson.
Top left is Joe Mewson, right over there.
I think.
It's a good possibility. I do know we have them all identified. This is St. Mary's softball team, 1943. You recognize a few of the people in there. On the bottom left, Don Fling Smits actually became very active with youth baseball, particularly American Legion ball. He was one of the early coaches. Jim Jansen, a lot of us had for English as an English teacher. Of course, Herb Duke Keene up on the top there. Jerry Smits became city administrator. Kind of a who's who of people in there. This one was just kind of a fun little article. St. Francis in a comical softball game last Sunday. Can you zoom in on a little bit, Joe? So they can see it there. Pull her down. There we go. The men of St. Francis Parish staged a real softball game last Sunday at Legion Park. It was the married men against the single men, and the youngsters finally won out by a 10-4 count. All the married men wear their wives' dresses, bonnets, earrings. It was a ghastly sight to behold, and the fans were of the same opinion. Bob Berg, Jack Collins, and Ray Hines scampered around in two-piece swimsuits. Carl Jansen had a tough time getting around in his formal. Emil Smits, playing roving center, looked luscious in his sunsuit. Pat Martin, Art Ganewick, Joe Schumerth, Len Johnson, and Don Berg also tiptoed around to complete the style show. The single men were out to play ball as they started the carnival going with 2 runs in the first inning. Not to be outdone, the old men or women came back with 3 runs in the third. Both teams used 3 pitchers for the 10-inning tilt. On the mound for the youngsters were Earl Walsh, Fred Dillon, and Jim Martin. The losers used Pat Martin, Carl Jansen, and Art Ganewick. Don Brennan collected a home run for the winners, which was the longest hit of the game. Playing good ball for the losers were Don Berg, Jack Collins, and Joe Schumerth. Standouts for the winners were Reverend Bashy, Reverend Feller, and Lee Martin. John Baton kept peace in the family by backing up his decisions with a revolver. That was kind of a fun little article we ran across. Another little interesting tidbit, Greenleaf had some tremendous ball players come out of that area. And they actually, we didn't have a hardball team for adults back in the day, but Greenleaf had one, and they were part of the Fox River Valley Baseball League. A number of the team members were actually from De Pere. So in this particular shot, it's kind of bad quality picture, but Romy Cosner's in there, Howie Kiley, Jim Schumerth, Joe Denny would have been Greenleaf, Mike Denny would have been Greenleaf, Vern Silbernagel was De Pere, Tom Denny was Greenleaf, Buck Edinger was from De Pere, Bill Leonard was from Greenleaf, Bob Denny was from Greenleaf, a lot of Denny's. Joe Mewson is on the top right back there. That's Joe Mewson back there. So they, a lot of good ball players, they just didn't have an outlet at the time, so they went to places they could play. And this is, I'm assuming, a softball team. It was just a good quality picture, and I thought we should throw it in there. There's my Uncle Tom. Oh, there's Joe Mewson right there, and just to his right is my Uncle Tom, Tom Boyd, on the right there. They won some championship. And back to the beginning of that. Now we can scroll ahead. You can move ahead to the next clip, which would be, go back to the Enfane down there, Joe, on the left. Way on the left there, Enfane, just click on that, and go to Legion Baseball. All right, start with this. Let's hope these all come. In 1946, as I said, there was not a whole lot of activity. In the bottom of the article here, it refers to the fact that they had these tryouts for this Legion team. Because of the war, World War II, they had sport activities had been lagging for youth. So Jim Martin took it upon himself with a couple of his buddies to start up this Legion Ball team. A little backstory that's not part of the articles. De Pere still has a Legion team. Back when he proposed it to the city fathers, they said they thought it was a great idea. We should have a team on each side of the river, an East Side Legion team and a West Side Legion team. And Jim insisted that it would just be one De Pere team. Of course, the people in the city felt it would never work as a result of the 1923 fight and fire they had out on the bridge after a football game. De Pere East and the West Side teams did not compete from 1923 until 1952 because of that fight. So there was kind of a deep-seated feelings that they had in there. So anyway, this is 1946, April 25th, on Saturday afternoon, April 27th, 2 o'clock at Legion Field, Legion Park. Tryouts will begin for all boys who had not reached the age of 17 before January 1946 to form a junior American Legion team. I'm going to skip ahead here. The Ford Motor Car Company is sponsoring the Legion teams throughout the country and is being aided by the local dealer of Gross Motor Company. Jim Martin, Jack Collins, and John McDonough will look over all candidates and select a team to represent the local post in competition with other posts and teams in the vicinity. Suits and equipment will be provided as well as insurance. So this was the beginning of Legion Baseball, thanks in large part to Jim Martin's efforts. Move ahead. And this is a picture of that first 1946 Legion team. The sponsor, Mr. Gross, Bill Gross, is in the back, in the middle there. And just to the left of him is Jim Martin, who is the first manager of the team. I'm not sure the name of the gentleman on the right with the sunglasses on, but he also assisted. Do you know?
John Collins.
That's John Collins. Thank you very much. I know he assisted that because he had a couple of assistants there. The interesting thing, and I don't have an explanation, but all the baseball caps I noticed have a V8 on it. The only thing, unless somebody has a better answer for me, I could think of is that the sponsor was the Ford Motor Company and had these V8 hats laying around. But I can tell the second gentleman on the right, from the right on the bottom row right there, is Mr. Schumerth. Go the other way. Go the other way, from the right. On the first row, second from the right. Just scroll over.
Let me back it off here.
Let's see if this thing works here. Back it off right here. I don't know if you recognize that face right there, but that's Jim Schumerth right there. I recognize him. And I'm going to assume that Joel and Ann is on this team also somewhere. Because as was pointed out to me tonight by Mark Martin, who happened to show up, Joel and Ann was the catcher for his first few Legion teams that we had. And Joel and Ann's sister ended up marrying Jim Martin because of the baseball. Is that correct, Mark? Thank you. You move ahead. One of the things they did to promote the Legion Ball and to actually give it a little bit of financial backing, they had these old-timers games. They would get some of the older people in De Pere to play ball. Lawrence Carney, how many people remember Carney's Barbershop? Well, Lawrence Carney was the big organizer. He lined up quite an array of talent for the old-timers when they encountered the youthful Legion team next Sunday, Legion Park at 2:30. The old-timers are going to have their hands full with Jim Martin and Jack Collins' team because they've organized a pretty strong team. A free substitution rule has been granted the old-timers as Carney isn't too sure his boys can be able to do too much running. Carney has ordered his men to begin preparations for the game by running and throwing this week, although a doctor will be near to offer immediate aid, which no doubt will be needed. Carney has lined up about 30 men and will no doubt use all of them in the struggle. And this is a list of some of the guys: Frank Van Vagel, Sivy Smits, Joe Schumerth, Leo Martin, Joe Manders, Norm Pitchkey, Fred Dillon, Ivan Mataya. How many remember Ivan from Ivan's Bar? Well, Ivan Mataya, I don't know if you realize it, but he actually came to our area, to Green Bay, because he was a semi-pro ball player in his day from back in Iowa. Another gentleman that came to play baseball for a Green Bay team back then, a gentleman by the name of Frank Lockmer, was also another really good ball player. The Legion Juniors will have Bob Giese and Bob Schumerth ready to pitch, with Joel and Ann, the scrappy Irishmen, doing the catching. The infield will present Freddie Murphy, Jim Manders, Jim Schumerth, Fred Falk, Dick Conley, Jerry Hendricks, Glenn Teskey, Kelly Danon, and Buck Ettinger, while Dick Collette, Don Brennan, Don Zelton, Ken Lindeman, and Jerry and Don Smits will patrol the outfield. Should be a great game. Everybody should come out. You go ahead. So this is another article about basically the same type of article about the old timers. You move ahead again. It says the Legion Juniors to play the old timers. It did get canceled. They ended up moving it ahead, so just another article. I mean, they played it up. They had about 3 weeks worth of publicity to try to get this thing going. All right, so now after they got that out of the way, and by the way, the old timers did win. I believe it was 12-9. They beat the youngsters there. This is the article talking about the start of the Legion team. Mayor Volker was on hand to throw the first ball, inaugurating the first post-war athletic contest in De Pere. Bleachers were also set up so that the public could come out and cheer the boys to victory. They talked about having campaigns to sell tickets to come to the games. This is another, they had a makeup game after they lost. They wanted to do it again. So they had a second game against the old timers. It was probably profitable, would be my guess. Down at the bottom there it says Lawrence Carney, the old timers pilot, Ulster's pilot, has been keeping the names of his players on the secret list, with the exception of releasing the names Clark Hinkle, Milt Gattenbein, and Arnie Herbert. Former Packers will take the field. So of course they're trying to draw more interest and more people. These guys all lived in De Pere. Hinkle, Gattenbein, and Arnie Herbert. And this is closing out their season. They closed out their season with a double victory. It was a very successful first year. They beat the Aish West Side All-Stars 14-3. Harold Buck Ettinger of Morrison, not Greenleaf, was credited with both wins. Oh, there we go. Don Zelton was outfielder, did a really good job. So they ended up record of 16-1 and 16 wins. There we go. 16 wins and 4 losses in their first year. Pretty successful year. Yep. What's it? Yeah, I gotta remember to do that. Oh, I can. Okay. Thank you. Huh. I have this new toy that allows me to override Joel. Just pointed that out. I should see if it works here. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Well, at least the little spotlight works. So this is the postseason, end of the season. They did feat them. They had a big dinner laid out for them. I believe it was at the Chatterbox. Had some speakers lined up for them. Just kind of a congratulations at the end of their first year. It doesn't move it ahead for me. This is the 1947 season. This is their second year now, so this is the start of that. They joined a conference. Member of the Northeastern Wisconsin Junior League, which consisted of teams from Algoma, Clintonville, Shawano, Gillett, O'Connell Falls, Marinette, and of course De Pere. Manager Martin, again, is trying to get as many boys out. Don't be bashful. Drop around. You'll be given a fair trial. And this is a picture of the 1947 Legion team. You can zoom in on that a little bit there, scroll through them, kind of get an idea there. Carl Jansen on the top left. He was the post commander. I see Joel and Ann is right here. There's Joel and Ann. Right there. And then Jim Martin, of course, is up on the top. That looks like that gentleman. Is that Ettinger there? I think he was the pitcher. And of course, Jim Martin up on the top. Top right is the manager.
Is that Jim Anders next to Dan and Joel and Ann?
What's that?
Go back to Joel and Ann.
Joel and Ann, yep.
Is that Jim Anders next
To the here? Jim Manders right there? We think. Vouch for that? Yep. Thank you, Jim Manders. You can scroll ahead. And in their second year, they won the baseball championship of that particular division. Which is wonderful. They became champs. They won 5-2. Buck Ettinger pitched his best game of the year at that point in time. And it's a wonderful thing. And they close out their fine season. In that particular year, they won 16 and lost 6 and brought De Pere its first baseball championship in history. course, they forgot about the other group of guys from 1874. They must have no longer been in the parade. It's another old-timers game, and this one is a little bit later. I'm just going to try to see, because there were a couple little interesting little tidbits in here. Scroll down. Juniors are really good. This is all the guys on the team. Frank Lockmore was part of this old-timers. They just kept playing these old-timer games. Plenty of room to seat 1,000 spectators. They brought grandstand accommodations to VFW Field, and they could seat 1,000 people for that. Scroll back down now, just so I can see if there's any. They have some funny little. Yep, you can go ahead. And the Oldsters did it again. They beat the Legion team 12-9. And you can see the names. You want to just zoom in on the box score just so they can see them. My Uncle Tom Boyd was on the team as a Legion team. Verber, Bougie, Wimple is Wemple, Patterson, Derwisky, Roger Derwisky. And then the old-timers, Frank Lockmer, I'm assuming John Collins, Schumerth, Birkin, Peters, a lot of Birkins, Schumers, McDonough. So quite a little crew. And Ivan Mattia was the pitcher.
Who was this?
McDonough. Oh, probably Van Vunderen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And this is the champions from the 1949 team. So they started to rack up the championships. And I believe that's Fling Smits right back here. He went into a coaching role helping out back in the day. Yep. That would be Fling Smits. And that's Schumer. That's a Schumerth right there. I can tell that. There's my Uncle Tom right there. Tom Boyd. Yep, that's Uncle Tom. I think this is the funny one. Okay. Old timers are going to do it again. Now we're up to 1950. Raj Derwisky, they had some pretty good guys on the youth team. Interesting thing here is, to combat Derwisky, the Derwisky menace, the old timers can rely on the steady right arm of Tony Hesacker, the whiz kid of the late 20s. On August 14, 1928, Tony planned to pitch a no-hit, no-run game at Swamico, but the game was rained out. Derwisky, of course, had better luck. The weather cooperated, and he got his no-hitter in the records up at Sturgeon Bay 2 weeks ago. Hesacker, this Tommy Hesacker, he was a boxer back in the day, and William Hesacker was his brother. His brother's the one that we have photos of jumping off the top of Nicolay Paper down into that well of water there. And the post, this American Legion post, was named after Tommy Hesacker's brother. It was William Hesacker, American Legion post. And this is the 1950 Legion Ball team, just a little older. This, who's the Hopalong Cassidy? He comes to our shows. I was hoping he'd be here. Simons. Gary Simons. Is that Gary Simons? Right there? Right in front of Jim? Yeah, he was the mascot, the bat boy would have been. Here's Al Sable. I know, recognize that face. There's Roger Derwisky. Harry Van Wright is back there on the top left. And my uncle was a pretty good ball player. This is a nickel from Morrison. Another championship team. And here's the 1951 team. Jim Martin, Al Sable, Roger, and then Fling Smits, of course, still coaching them. Good early history. And then back to the beginning. That's the completion of the Legion Ball. Legion Ball still continues today. They've had some great success. They did win back in the late 40s and early 50s. They did win some state championships with those teams. Now, Joe, go back to the Enfane thing there on the left. Right down on the left over there. Keep going right there. And we just go to Little League. No, Little League. Go back to the Enfane. Little League. Way over on the right, Joe. Way over here. There you go. One more. There you go. Thank you.
There it is.
All right. Start with the top one. There you go. This is March of 1954. Jim Martin, as if he didn't already have enough to do with the Legion ball, decides he's going to start up this little thing called Little League for the youths. So in March of 1954, plans for the formation of Little League baseball for the coming season this summer will be outlined at a meeting Monday evening. The league organization meeting is being called by Jim Martin, who has been connected with Junior Legion baseball here since he returned from service 8 years ago. Go ahead. And this, another article the next week, a meeting to determine whether there's sufficient interest to warrant the organization of a Little League baseball program. 97 boys came out, 8 to 13 years old, to form these teams. Originally, they only planned on having 4 teams. Because of this strong interest, they expanded it to 6 teams back in the day. Ooh. Next week, they found out there was even more interest. It jumped up to 132 boys that were interested in playing Little League. They expanded from 6 to 8 teams at that point. They did play their game both at Legion Park and at VFW, and they also played some games at the fairgrounds. And here are the Little League team rosters listed for the first games, June 2nd. And you can kind of see here, we'll just go scroll up, Joe. Start with Dana on the left there. Dana Insurance. Right here. Yep. So Dana Insurance was one of the first teams with Kelly Dana and Neil Rickman as coaches. You can see the names of the boys there. I'm not going to read through all of them there. John Patterson, Gary Hudson, names I know, Don Bougie, Roger Ferris. The Kiwanis Club team, coached by Jack Walsh and Harry Rhodes. Dave Rhodes, your son always got to be on your team. Dave Franken, Schumerth, Dennison, Elbridge, Murphy. Automatics, coached by Russ Switzer. Chuck Turinas, Cal Lawton, of course, you got to be on that team. Tony and Mike Walter, Dick Switzer, John Switzer, this was your team. John Boyd and Walter Boyd, no relation. You scroll down, see the other teams, just so we see those first teams. Len Festi was on there. The Legion team, coached by Don Smits and Bob Bloomers. Tom Vanderloof, Fran Vandermortel, Bob Smits, Ken Smits, Mewson, Devroy, Gary Paul. Oh, Judd Pasterski, okay. Baton's Foods, Cy, pull it down a little bit, Joey. Nope, the other way. Down this way. There we go. Baton's Foods, Cy Birkin, Bill Smits were the managers. Kind of glance at the names of those boys. Whitbro's Market, not Withbro, but Whitbro. Bob Johnson and Dick Baton were the managers. Nicolay Paper, Buck Hannon, and Paul Franken were the managers. Pete Coonan, Billy Josephs, is that Buck Joseph's brother? No relation. Pete Franken, Mike Muscella. And finally the Rotary Club, Darrell Larsons and Ross Haven were the managers. You see the makeup of those teams there. Is anybody here that was on those teams? Got it? Cool. It was like 3 or 4 of you. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. I like that. And we move ahead here. They opened up. This article's from, this is 19, no, I don't have a specific date on this. About 130 boys were involved in this. Go ahead. A little bit more about the debut of the big game. And then the Little League All-Star Squad challenges the Baton Champs. So Baton was the first championship team that they had that first year, and they created an all-star team to play the boys back in the day. So if you zoom in, Joe, I just want to look at some of the, pull it over there a little bit, the other way there. So the managers of the 2 teams of the all-star team, Don Fling Smits and Kelly Danon. And then the all-star and Baton rosters, so the all-star rosters had Joe Marzoff, Tom Quinnett were the battery, the pitchers. The catchers, can you scroll up, Joe? The catchers were Jim Hockers and Francis Fluffy. He must, as he got older, they just dropped the Fluffy and just became Fluff. Fluff Vandermortel. First base was Ronnie Vandehei. Tom Hout, Whitbro, Jerry Berner from Dana Insurance, Ted Miller from Automatics, Pat Collins from the Rotary, Ronnie Lindeman from Whitbro, third base Kenny Smits, Jim Metzler, Dick Switzer, Billy Rodman, quite a who's who there. So Baton's had to take on all the All-Stars. You move ahead. It's just another article that promoted it really big. Again, trying to get a big crowd there. They made money on the concession. And you can scroll ahead again. And the Little League All-Stars nip Baton's 11-5. And those are the two teams. That would be the Baton's team down below on the bottom. And grins in spite of the fact they lost. And then the All-Stars on the top there. And what year was that? This was 1954. The first year of Little League. And Baton's was the first championship team. And there is the Little League champions. The first group to win the whole thing. And you can see again the makeup of the team there. Bill Smits was one of the coaches. You got Van Gee, McLeod, Al Martin, Jerry Dana. Jerry Pudge Dana is right here. God rest his soul, just passed away recently. There he is. There's Pudge Dana right there. And moving ahead, Little League plans. They changed the makeup of the Little League. They wanted to go having East Side teams and West Side teams. That did get thrown out. They didn't end up doing that. You can go ahead and scroll again. And these are 11-year-olds. This is the second year. They had 205 boys come out for their second year. And they had tryouts, rosters of 15 players. These are the champions. These are just some of the names of the second-year champions in 1955. You can kind of go right onto the pictures here. We'll just go through them rather than going through the names. This was the first half of the season champions. A couple of this one I know is Jim Mulder right here. Bruce Schumerth is one of these. I don't know. I think it's this one right here. Is Bruce. So they won the first half of the season, and then the second half of the season is the next picture. And these are the boys that won the second half in 1955. This particular group's the 1956 champions. Coach Clady Smits up on the top left there. Recognize him. And then who's the other coach over there? Let's see. They don't have it there. Bob Smits. Okay, probably his brother was the other coach. And you zoom back out. There's a McDonough. Coley McDonough is right next to. There's a McDonough right there. Next to Clady Smits up on the top. And another McDonough down in the front row right there, I believe. It's Tim McDonough, Pete Franken. Go ahead. This is the taken care of royally. This is 1957 championship. Boys are all dressed up real nice because the team sponsor decided to treat them to a chicken dinner at the Chatterbox, given by the C.A. Lawton Company. And you can see this is Mr. Lawton right here. This is Mr. Walsh right there. And if you scroll back out, we can see some of the names here. We got Mike Sturdivant in there, Jerry Gosen, Don Ambrose, Gautier, Bonfit, John Switzer. Where's John? Oh, right back here. There's John right here. John's in the crowd tonight too. Randy Lawton in there, Dave Franken, Van Enkenvoort. I think the next picture, an upgrade. There we go. There's an upgraded picture. This is the 1958 Little League champions from Kolb Linoleum. Ernie Kolb was the sponsor. Oh, Steve's here. Steve's here. Yep, Steve Wilmette. Then the mayor, Mike Walsh. Mark Peters, Danon, Andy Scannell. I knew him quite well. Gary Wilmette. Gary, Steve's brother. I'm going to guess, yep. Dale Cornelison, Mike Deacon, Joe Simons. That's Gary Simons' brother. Nice picture. This is the 1959 Little League champions, Nicolay Paper. let's see here. I got second row, Randy Krieger, right there. There's Randy Krieger. Look familiar? I assume. Yeah, that's Randy. Bob Paul is right next to Randy. Got a couple little Paul brothers here tonight. Jim Hudson, John Wheeler, Tom Collins, and Don Rolfe. 1960, I'm not going to go through every year, but I want to have a few of them here. The 1960 team, Dale Cornelison, Ronnie Manders, Fred Rabine, Sam Hemp. This is 1960. These were the plans for the new Little League ballpark that were drawn up. And they pretty much did it to scale. It was completed, and they opened it up for the 1961 season. So any boys that would have played in 61 got to use the new dugouts that they had over there. And this is next picture is just a poor quality picture. They're still doing work on it, but that's the dugout closest to the water tower. And this is from 1961. That's the first year they used it. The 1964 Little League champions. We had Hans Ecker, Jim Martin, Bruce Krieger in there, John Peterson. Good memories. This particular 1969, take a nice jump there. Leo Van Sistine. There's a gentleman in the back right there, the coach. Ken Willems, thank you. And the coach on the left? Fred? Got it. I know it's down below there too. Oh yeah, Fred Gunton, yeah. Ken Whippazinski in that one. This is the 1971 Little League champs from Broadway. As Clem Coonan was my coach for Ford's Bakery. I did play 1 year of Little League, my first year in Little League, and fortunate enough to play for A&W Root Beer. I only played 1 inning the whole year, which was 1 inning too much because they sent the ball right over my head, and I think a guy got an inside the park home run. But win or lose, both our team and the team we played got free root beer at Derek's A&W. So that was great. And then I got cut every year after that, played minor league baseball, which was good on a championship, played in both championship games, won it 1 year. So it was kind of nice. Great way to bond. Broadway won again. Clem Coonan, again, the coach there. I believe Bob Coonan is in this one. Bob ended up having a tryout with the Milwaukee Bucks. Yep. Paul Bate and John Pastursky. Here's just a minor league championship team. This was interesting because when I was going through these photos, I didn't realize it, but my brother actually was on the team, and I didn't know that. I knew he played baseball, but I didn't know he was part of the championship team. This was Salati's Bakery. Risky. And this was, not to slight anything, but this was kind of a nice shot because this was the undefeated Babe Ruth team from 1972, and Joe Lenan giving back. So he played on those very early Legion teams, and then obviously did some coaching after that. And that's his son, Dan Woody Lenan, just to his right there. You got a couple of McDonoughs in this picture too. I think that's maybe Kelly McDonough right there. And back to the beginning of that. So there's a little snapshot of Little League. And it was kind of fun because we did put the thing out on the You Grew Up in De Pere. And I said, I think every guy remembers what team they played for, whether it was minor league, Little League, or Babe Ruth. And of course, there was a lot of feedback. How many in here played Little League, minor league, or Babe Ruth? Just by a show of hands. And everybody that has their hand up can remember the team they played for? Yes. We're not going to go around right now, but we'll share that outside here. Your what? Oh, your coaches. Yeah, you don't forget your coaches because they have a big impact on you. Then, Joe, just click down on that last file there, just real quickly to go through that. Just quickly on that. So the top one is what I want, number 1.
Post office?
Yeah, this is a question, right? This is the construction of the post office building. Everybody remembers that. Right across the street from the De Pere Theater there. And of course, Sis and Butch's Bar right over there on the left. Recognize that. The puzzle on this, the building right here on the left, It's directly across the street from Art and Irma's bar, all right? Mac's restaurant was across the alley from it, and then of course next to that was Hahn's drugstore. So you had Hahn's, Mac's, and this building. Does anybody remember that building? We're struggling ourselves. I mean, that.
Sisson Butcher's was Emma Peters first.
Yeah, but that building right there.
That post office was built before Sisson Butcher.
Yep, oh yeah, but everybody knows where Sisson Butch's is. But this is that foundation. Carl, do you remember what the building is here?
Across from there, I always thought it was Mac's Restaurant.
No, that's across the alley from that.
Story.
Right.
Yep. So it's still a challenge. I guess we're gonna have to pull out the tax records, try to figure out what was there, and then just scroll ahead through just a couple of these here. This, I just thought I'd throw this out there. Back in 1980, my brothers were, I helped organize this thing, but my brothers were part of a group of guys that were distance runners that decided to take on a challenge of trying to win or become the state record holders in the 24-hour relay. There was 10 guys, each guy would run a mile, and then you pass the baton. And this was the 4th year that they did it. The first 3 years they fell short. And finally in the 4th year, you can see there's Johnny McDonough. John Chase was the ringer that we got in from UWGB. My brother James Boyd, who's now the mayor, Rick Turriff, Jeff Scott, Ken Bauer from Green Bay East, brother Patrick Boyd, Kevin Novak from Green Bay East, Dan Powers was from Eshwaman, and Dave Bergen was from De Pere. And if you scroll down, they got all their times for each of their miles, and you can see what they ended up doing in June of 1980. Right on the bottom there, it's got the numbers there. They ran 273 3/4 miles in that time frame. Average mile time was 5 minutes and 15 seconds. And the red ones, that first red box, that's when they broke the record of 5:40. And here we are 45 years later, approximately, they still have the state record for the 24-hour relay. Just kind of a cool little deal. Always wanted to share that. Next one, we'll just go through these kind of quick. Well, this was just kind of a fun one that I happened across. Guards are teachers and students. This is Meet Your Instructor, part 4. These were the swim teachers at the different pools. So on the left in the top picture is Susan Crevier, Paul Coonan, and Topper Malva. If you just pull it up there, Tom Day, Andy Nix, Mary DeBooth, and Tim McDonough. Kind of a cool. And then they just did a little piece on each one of them as far as what they were doing out of high school, going to college, what they wanted to do. So as we go forward, this is part 4. I'll try to dig up the other ones. This was one that somebody brought me at the Union Hotel. I didn't recognize the wallpaper, so I said, no, it can't be from there. And about 6 months ago, somebody brought me another picture that was clearly the room off of the bar with that wallpaper in it. So kind of a cool little shot. I don't know who the two people are, but 1965, I should have remembered it, but I don't remember that wallpaper. And this was the East De Pere Grade School softball team title. The Junior Redbirds had a 20-3 record. And John, you're in this on this group right here too. There's John Switzer, right in there. Kind of a who's who of De Pere people in there. Tony Walters in there. Cal Culp, Stoddard, Frank Rauch, Randy Lawton. Go ahead. We can kind of go through these fairly fast. We may have showed this before, but this is inside Franken's drugstore. You can see the Schumerth building, kitty corner across the street. This is from, we think about 1955. This is just a fun shot. This is taken, this building right here is a Cashway store. Eventually became the Red Owl store on George Street, and is currently Badgerland Printing. And the building here to the left where it says Hunters over there, that's the Chatterbox. At one point it was referred to as the Hunters Club. There's a bar and restaurant that they had there. And of course Bait is way over here on the left. And then on the right, nice looking young ladies, right here is where Sable the barber was. You gotta pull it over a little more. Nope, the other way. There you go. That's Sable's barber shop right in there.
Again, that Cashway store, when that was Red Owl was in West De Pere
He moved into there. And then Henry Van Hoovel ended up, when 1955, when they opened the Red Owl store on Wisconsin Street, he was the first manager. Thank you. This is the old Nicolay Theater. Joe, you said you don't remember seeing this shot.
Mm-mm.
That's where Bubba Louie's is now. It was right next door to the Pearl Theater.
Right.
Two theaters side by side. A little shot of Paul Kaler. Valley Liquor. I don't know if you remember, this is Peter Vanoyan's house on Wisconsin Street behind the Lee store. I remember going there for a garage sale, and shortly after the garage sale, the building blew up. Pete was in a nursing home. He had fallen and broken his hip. He left the Union Hotel after stoking the boiler, and he left the hotel the night that the steeple went down at St. Francis. The wind caught him outside the hotel, far enough away from the hotel, and he fell over and broke his hip, unfortunately, and ended up in a nursing home after that. At old Peter's house. This is a great shot, which we've shown before. This is the railroad swing bridge that would take you from Voyager Park now over to Government Island. And then the railroad tracks continued all the way to the Nicolay Paper. This is a bunch of boys smelt fishing. You can see their dip nets there. And if you zoom in, I recognize one guy right away, right here. It's Clady Smits. You want to zoom in on him a little more, Joe? There he is. There's Clady Smits. I showed it to Clady, and we figured he was probably 15 years old at the time. Well, I'm sure once he got his driver's license, he wasn't spending his time smelt fishing. Just looking for a little help here. This is Virgil Smits. This is Ray Danon on the right. Is this Mr. Is this a Lawton here? Is that Choppy? Yep. Choppy Lawton. And anybody recognize this gentleman? We can't really, we tried to look at his name tag, but we couldn't really make it out. Okay, good. Who remembers, go back to that, Joe. There we go. Who remembers Steckert's Furniture, not on Wisconsin Street, but on Broadway?
That was a grocery store first.
Yeah, it was a meat market. It was a butcher shop. So it was Steckert's Butcher Shop, and then they got out of the butchering business, and they put the furniture store in there. And of course, it was too small, so they eventually moved into the old Studebaker garage, which is now the location of Exo Fitness. And Van Gimmerts, for those that don't know, they did start on the west side. They were a west side family. And unfortunately, I have to report, I just found out this evening that Jim Van Gimmert's wife, Rita Van Gimmert, passed away today. Wonderful lady. But this is right at the end of the bridge on the west side. Oh, go back to that once. This building is first building you see on the right when you go across the river to the west side. That's where Van Gimmert started. All these stones here, they did an addition on to the east. That's Giver's Barber Shop across. Oh no, wait, that looks like the Nicolay Restaurant over there. That's the Nicolay Restaurant over there. Go ahead. And this is the last one here. This is a shot looking to the west side. It's the only photo we have of the original St. Joseph's Church. You can see the steeple in the background there. That's the original St. Joseph's Church that burnt down and actually bankrupted the parish. And because they rebuilt the new church, and because they went bankrupt, the diocese approached a gentleman by the name of Pennings, who was up north in Namur, and asked if he would take the church over. They wanted them to pay something for it, and Penning said, no, I'm not going to give you any money for that. So they just took it on, and of course that became St. Norbert College. Amazing thing is that beautiful house right there on the river. We believe that's Andrew Reed's house. You're familiar with Reed Street? And this would be a warehouse for his business that he had in the background there. All part of the present St. Norbert campus. That's it. Oh, this one I forgot about. This is a shot of a golf course. I don't know if people are aware of, there was a golf course within the city limits of De Pere at one time. It was called Wabanakwa Country Club, and it was in existence from about 1912 to about 1918, short term. It was just the other side, just to the north of Ridgeway Boulevard. The trolley that came down would bring people from Green Bay to golf at the Wabanakra Country Club. This is Mr. Wilcox at that country club. So like where White Pine is, Joe's house right in the corner, it was right in that whole big lot back there. They had a 9-hole golf course. It took over for the place that was called the Electric Park. The Electric Park was started up by the transit company back in the day. And a little shot of Westy Pier, Main Street, not a real good one, unfortunately. And I think that's it. That's all mine, Joe.
That's it.
Now you move over to,
Well, we have a
Here,
very recently
break down here, Joe.
acquired,
right here,
what do you need?
April 24th, down, keep going down, keep going down, keep going down, keep going down, you're almost there. Nope, that's mine. Yours is in there somewhere.
Scared me. Yeah.
We're getting there. No, we had it, where did it go?
There you go.
There it is,
Okay.
thank you.
After a period of some absence, we are pleased to bring you the Boyd Chronicles.
I thought you were gonna forget that.
There was a family reunion of the Boyd clan in their regalia. Now McKim wanted
Right there.
very badly to be a clown, but he was so morose that decided that that was not for him. And biggest reason is that he just did not like to smile. Well, what do we got here? But he did some investigating and saw that you had a Rockefeller here who made a product, or was known for a product named Oysters Rockefeller.
Oh,
And he wanted to have that identity. And the same thing with Teddy Roosevelt, who made the teddy bear famous. Well, McKim thought he would make a burger famous, but it was a little extreme.
the Boyd burger.
Yeah, yeah. And then he thought he would take the natural route and go with the carrots. Carrot medley. Well, then he decided some kind of a pastry and named it after a current presidential candidate and sculpted it to resemble the candidate. Oh, that takes care of that. We have
Right on top, barber shops.
barber shops. Okay. It's the earliest known barber shop in De Pere. It's near the village house.
Village House, which is where the Malva Center is right now,
Yeah.
right there.
The
And
pole.
there you can see the barber pole. This is taken in about 1869, this particular photo. One interesting thing, which actually part of history, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, laundries were known to be run by Chinese. All right, there's a Chinese laundry. In fact, Royal Cleaners started out right over by St. Francis Church as a Chinese laundry, which eventually became Royal Cleaners. They eventually located onto Broadway, Max Bakery, and then, of course, grew from there. In addition to the Chinese being involved in the laundry business, it turned out in the late 1800s, The barbers were known as black barbers. The African American population, a lot of them, including the gentleman that had this particular barber shop, was black. We did have a fairly substantial black population in De Pere. When I say substantial, there was probably 20 to 25 people in this time period living in De Pere. This was the black barber on this side. The barber shop where Givers was located actually had 3 black barbers doing the barbering in that particular building. So this is the first barber shop, known photo of a barber shop in De Pere.
This is the Zabrowski building. They had talking machines here, and musical instruments and athletic goods. So if you couldn't play football very well, you could pick up the violin from the same business.
Or go next door,
And
get your hair cut.
Yep.
This particular building is the location of what, Joe?
What's that?
What is this building the location of? Are we moving ahead?
Oh, Giver's Barber Shop.
Givers Barber Shop.
Here you say,
That's the same
late
shot.
and great Mike Fleck.
Mike Fleck and Carla
and
Nix
Carla Nix.
stepped in. So if you go backward, you can see it's the same. Just go backward with the photo. It's the same entry right there with those two.
Mm-hmm. And here you see the Giver's Barber Shop.
I believe this is Ray Givers in the back.
1931.
That's Ray. And this is an Albers. Kurt, which Albers? Sam. Sam?
Yes.
That's Sam Albers on the barber chair, and I'm assuming that's his mother, older sister, overseeing the whole situation.
Very famous Tony Leininger. He was a great photographer and a good barber.
And his barber shop was located, it became Weber's or Weber's Barber Shop on Broadway in De Pere, next to Norb's Broadway Bar, right there. More shots.
This is a mystery. We don't know who it is, where it is, but it was a barber shop.
That's Joseph.
Say again, please.
Joseph's?
Harold Joseph.
Could be.
Where?
Here or Barber?
The Justice of the Peace, you mean?
No,
Harold Joseph.
Harold Joseph. They were related like those.
Hugo. Okay.
This is a bill of fare of what it would cost to go to Sable's and get yourself cleaned up. If you want a tonic on your hair, it's 25 cents. If you wanted a shave, 25 cents. If you wanted a shave and some tonic, well, you just added those two numbers. 50 cents. Haircut was 50 cents. A shave, 25.
The whole works. Haircut,
Well, it works.
shave, and
If
tonic.
you really wanted
$1.
to get ready for a fancy weekend, you'd pay $4 and you'd come out looking good and smelling good. This is Al Sable's barbershop.
There's Al Sable, right there. And I think this is Don Byrne, the middle gentleman in the chair.
Here?
Yeah, I'm sure that's Donald Byrne. B-Y-R-N-E. And there's his other partners.
Good.
Dick Martin.
On the left, middle, Dick Martin.
Here?
Right here, no, right in the barber. Dick Martin. Anybody know the other gentleman here?
I think it's John Keane.
John Keane. Oh yeah, you're right. John Keane, tied to the Keane family with Broadway Garage. This is from 1958.
I think they got their wallpaper from the same place you got yours.
Yeah, there's something about that wallpaper.
Yeah. This is Frank Schmidt from Greenleaf, related to the Crevier family. Here he is a few years later, same guy. And Barney Fife was getting his haircut there.
That's Frank
There he is again.
Schmidt.
Mm-hmm.
And
This
again,
is
oh, that's Susan
Frost.
Crevier. Susan Frost. Back to the beginning. The reason we did barbershops and we're going to follow it up with gas stations, we got talking about that, and both of those places were kind of places where men hung out. My memories of going to Carney's Barbershop, which was real near the Union Hotel, I was very afraid as a young kid because all these guys, they just hung out there. They weren't there for a haircut. They just went and sat there. They had a long stretch over the radiator with a wooden cover. There was always 2, 3 guys sitting there. They had about 6 seats, 8 seats in the front window, guys sitting there. Often wondered how anything got cut back in the day because all they did is talked the whole entire time. And then gas stations, that's the next one there. That was the other place where men hung out. Again, they had the inner lobby area there. And you'd think these guys were here getting their car repaired or something, an oil change. No, they just were sitting there hanging out the day. There was always 2, 3, 4 guys sitting at all these different gas stations.
I don't remember the name of this particular gas station, but it was in what became was a vacant lot next to the Deep Pier Journal building to the
Yeah,
left.
it was a Shell service station, and the building to the right here where it says Tavern, that was Dan Wecker had it?
Dan Wecker had that, and then he moved to George Street.
Yep, from there.
George and Huron.
And this tavern right here, this became Paul's Bar. Yep, Zegers had it.
They had a ladies' room.
Yes, pretty ornate.
That tavern I remember as Sizzle.
It could have been. It was originally Zegers back in the late 1800s.
You're right.
Yep, Zegers.
Then the former mayor of De Pere back in the 50s was Von Mays, and also operated a mobile station where 3rd and 4th Street met.
The Triangle gas station. So there's a picture of the original gas station that was on that site. And is that Von there?
I think that's Vaughn and the doggies. I don't know who this is.
I think this is one you liked. I think you just liked that circle in the back. This is a Wadhams gas station. There were Wadhams gas stations all over. The west side had the Wadhams gas station.
Can't make out the license plate, the date on that. Nice car. There's Bud.
Bud Wecker, the police chief there. And I don't know, go back to Bud real quick. Was that, I'm not sure, I think that was right across from Union Hotel possibly.
The mobile, yeah.
Yeah.
The northwest corner.
Yep.
Bud Wecker was Dan's son.
Yeah.
Right. This was the gas station you forgot was there when you were going to Penning's.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was right across the street from Penning's.
1963, they put the post office.
Yeah, you can see St. Boniface Church in the background there. In fact, you could probably date this because there's no clock at St. Boniface yet.
Yeah, there's a clock.
No, there's not. They hadn't raised enough money yet.
But what is this?
That's the tower, but they don't have the clock in there. Remember, they did it in stages.
It's like a clock to me.
Well, there's not a clock there, Joe. Where's the clock?
Right here. See, there's the 9 or the hands and the numbers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll debate that later. Over bourbon. This site was where the 1 hour Martinizing is. That was Boyd's service station. That was also a Shell gas station. Which brings to mind the fact that at one time, just on the east side, these are the gas stations that I remember. If you started over by White Pillars Museum, you had the Esso station, which became Thome Motors. At the corner was the Standard gas station. Across the street was the Texaco gas station. This was the Shell gas station. And then you went up George Street, and you had about 4 gas stations there. So right in the downtown De Pere, just within about a 4-block area, there was probably 8 or 9 gas stations. Yep, and then it got converted over.
It's a 1961 Buick convertible. Beautiful car.
Bet you'd like to have that one today.
Yeah.
And of course, gas stations originally started out connected to garages. And then the garages decided they no longer wanted to be in the gas business, so they got rid of it. But as you can see here, the pumps were right up on the curb. Bit of a risk there. There's another shot. Broadway garage looking to the north with those pumps right out on the curb.
Pretty ornate.
Yep, it was a beautiful building.
This was a campground on the west side.
Yeah, this was located as you were heading out of Westy Pier on what is now Lost Dolphin. It would have been on the right-hand side, right across the street from where, what was that supper club that was out there? Fox Supper Club.
Yeah.
So this would have been approximately across the street from there. Yeah, probably right in that area.
This is the Deep Rock Station on Huron and George. And there you see Denny Lockmer, son of Frank.
And that's
He lives in Hawaii now. He's a chiropractor. And this is the late Jim Jokey.
oh,
And I don't know who this is.
Mary Patton. Thank you, Mary Patton. Now we know who that is.
Yeah.
And you can see the Royal Cleaners horn on the building back there.
The A&W and the Zephyr gas station.
Free root beer, if I had my uniform on.
I think this was the Centennial Parade, bicentennial. And who is this?
Oh,
Frank?
no, that's not Frank.
It's another Frank.
Before Frank. Martin.
Martin?
Was it Frank Martin, I think?
Yeah.
Was a police officer back in the day.
Oops.
Another shot. There you go.
I'm
This
looking at the prices.
this had to be when I started driving, so about 1974, 75. That's what it was. This is the gas station, I believe, on the other side of it was the Pizza Hut, I think, went here.
Yep.
And this, I think, was Jim Sable's gas station. Interesting thing with Jim Sable, he was referred to as Greasy Al, but his name was Jim, and his brother Al. That always confused me. Why did they call him Greasy Jim? Yep. This is the original Standard gas station on Broadway, across the street from the Lawton Foundry, across the street from the Texaco gas station.
Mm-hmm.
They moved that house there, didn't they, Joe?
I think South Erie.
Yeah. So that whole house, I believe, was moved by Mr. Steckert, would it have been? Somebody.
I think, yeah.
They moved it onto South Erie. The building's still there.
Yeah. And this is Wecker's gas station on the corner of Huron and George. And this is the aforementioned gathering place for men to
And in this case,
paper and
women.
have coffee in the morning.
Yeah. Just a social gathering place.
That's where Jan Wecker moved off of Broadway, that's where he went.
That's right.
A Wadham's Hawkers service station.
Lester Hawkers.
Yeah.
And I think this is Jansen. That's Buck Jansen?
Buck Jansen? Yep, Buck Jansen. Where was this service station?
Right up the street from the Jansen Bar, I think.
Okay.
No. Fifth and Main. You're right.
5th and Main, okay.
And there's Dan. Isn't it?
Dan Wecker?
I don't know.
I think so. I think that house is still there right there.
Yeah. Mystery.
don't know. Oh, this is an interesting story.
Yeah, why don't you walk us through this?
Babe Ruth, make a little extra money, did a little bit of barnstorming, traveled around the country. People would pay a fee to have him come do an exhibition, a little speaking, but mainly exhibition. And if we go to the next one, we were very fortunate in the city de Pere to have Babe Ruth come here. George Herman Babe Ruth, the king of SWAT in the baseball world, passed through de Pere on Thursday last week. He did not stop here, but had a brief stay at Charles Hall's attractive gas filling station and lunchroom, where he and his party partook of refreshments and also replenished their gas and oil supplies. Babe Ruth drove up from the south over State Highway 15, which is Highway 41. He was on his way to Iron Mountain, where he was to participate in a baseball game. The pitcher opposing, so on and so forth from there. So Babe Ruth was actually in De Pere, stopped at the gas station. That's the Village Gate gas station.
That's it.
That's where he stopped. And there's the gas station he stopped at. It's the back side of the Village Gate. And actually go back once, Joe, to that, just so they can see the building. Right here was the gas station part, and this was the restaurant in there.
And this was Jimmy's Bamboo Room.
Jimmy's Bamboo Room. Right over to the left. I wasn't to go in there.
I've never been in there.
No, none of us. And there's Hall's service station, drive-in coffee. Just another shot of that. One of the early gas stations. This was when they were transitioning away from the garages where the people bought the cars.
The house down there was purchased by my grandfather in 1945, and he moved it down the hill.
Next to Jimmy's Bamboo Room.
Where is it? Yeah. Well, I guess I don't have that picture.
But he moved
But
it
the
there.
house was taken down about 4 years ago.
Yep. It's a beautiful home.
It was a nice house. Right. We're going to take a quick look at a few of the homes on North Broadway.
Where'd they go?
Where did they go?
Shoot. They were there. I think you just deleted them.
Well, we'll get them next time.
Yep. In the meantime, click on the one you were going to do then.
What did we have?
Get out of there.
Yeah, get them out of here.
If you go back to where Babe Ruth gassed up, those would be the same pumps down by the park right now, correct?
Yes, they're not the exact same, but it's similar. Are the ones down by the park, are those gravity feed?
Yes.
Right, okay, because that's what they would have had, a gravity feed. Well, just go to now and then building, Sergio.
Well, getting to be about that time.
That's what Joe needs, a personal assistant.
No, it says North Broadway. No, it's a file that has
Yeah, it was a file. He clicked on it and it disappeared. I don't know where it went.
no.
You could click on those homes right there, Joe. Just start with 109. Just do that.
Start with what?
The one on 109 South Michigan.
109 South Michigan.
Just click on that one. Let's do that. See it? Right there.
Right there.
109 South Michigan.
That was originally, I don't know, it's some kind of a meeting hall, and it was in the 100 block of North Wisconsin Street.
Yes.
And then they picked it up and they moved it in back. You can see St. Mary's Church in the background.
That was a place did welding right here to the left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't that the Little League building where he did
Right in here, yeah, right here on the left.
This is, the Becker home, which was also in the parking lot in our current business. And it's been taken down.
There's my old house. It was the French house on North Wisconsin. My dad knew they were going to take it, so he stopped painting. So why would we bother? They're going to tear it down.
Yeah.
Which was fine. My mother was ready for it to go.
This is Charlie Hall's Tavern, which became the Bamboo Room. I wonder what kind of car this is. Nice looking.
That is a pretty car.
This is
Oh,
Mrs.
Lenan.
Miss Lenane, who became Mrs. Franken.
Yep.
What was her
This this was the Lenan house on Wisconsin Street. This was right across from our house.
The Clancy house.
Yeah. But I'm going to bet that's the house out in Wisconsin.
She married one of the Frankens. Jim Franken.
Lorraine, that's Lorraine.
Lorraine Lenane. Very pretty lady. This is the
Cotter Coffee Funeral Home. Ooh.
and that's something that was on St. Norbert's campus, which is no longer there. We're going to end the program with this picture, which was a puzzle, because nobody could figure out where that house was and why were there so many women on the porch, you know? One night, taking a stroll on Broadway, I saw these windows in a house that had been
And that ornate trim down here.
and some leaded glass up there. And this house was the Jackson house, which was turned into this.
And you notice that trim down here, that ornate trim, and then leaded glass windows.
Mm-hmm.
So if you back up, they can see that again. There's those leaded glass windows there, and that little trim down below. You look for those little details.
So this has been through a couple different owners at one time. It was it the Lyson family that did this to it? And then Mary
Click
Smith,
ahead.
Greg
Yep.
Larson.
Yep, recently passed away, unfortunately. Very good.
So there it is. We hope you'll stick around
Yes,
and join us for.
thanks for joining us.
Thanks
And
for
again,
coming tonight.
Larry Willems and Jim Vandenhaven, the mayor of West Depew, will be out there to greet you. Thank you all for coming.